to the LitChix podcast. We are Mary Ellen Humphrey,
Hello.
and I am Susan Landrigan. We're coming to you from the Innovation Studio at Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield, New York. Today we're going to discuss how journaling can help writers. And I've done it a little bit myself, but you do much more journaling than I do.
Journaling is in my blood. I can't live without my journal. I don't apologize. It's just the way I am. I think I started when I was 7 years old or so with one of those little 5-year lock diaries. I don't think the lock really meant much because you could just push the button and open it. But but I had to, dear diary. Today I played with my brothers, rode my bike, whatever I did, and I started recording my life. And I was just fascinated with this idea that words could record something from the past. I guess it's like a movie in a way because it's written on paper instead of visual. And so that's when I started. I don't know if you remember those cute little...
I had one, yes.
Did you?
I didn't really use it much. I mean, I wrote in it, but...
I think my grandmother gave it to me, and I loved it. And I remember we lived in this remote village in Maine called Parkman, and I had a room on the second floor of this really tiny little house with one window in the end of it, and on a really full moon, I could go over to that window and I could write. And no one would know I was writing. And I would get out of bed, and I'd get some inspiration for some rhyming poem. They always had to rhyme back then. And I'd go, I gotta write that down, and I'd go over to the window. And the next morning I could hardly read what I had written. But that was my first journaling experience. And it's been a tool throughout my life that I have used. I want to say one thing. If you have something that you don't want anybody to read, you might want to be careful writing it in a journal, because somebody could pick it up and read it, and then you might have a problem. That happened when I was a teenager, and it was really not very pleasant.
Yes.
But for the most part, you can use a journal as a writer for collecting ideas, exploring and expanding ideas.
I started doing that about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I was around 50 at the time, and I thought, I have memories of things that I don't want to forget, and as you age, everybody knows your memory doesn't do so good, so I decided to and I didn't do it on paper because with my arthritis, that I can't write for very long with a pen. But I did it on my iPad, and I made like little articles, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do with this now, but someday I'll do something with it.
Yeah, well, that's
so I have those to fall back on.
That's great.
In my writing now, and I'm working on some of those things.
Aren't you glad you wrote them down when you were thinking about them?
Yes, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories like that I go back now and I go, my memory is, you remember things emotionally. You don't really remember them factually. It's a strange thing about memory. So I like to give the example of 9/11, because everybody who was an adult who lived through that remembers, right? It's one of those big events in life that I know where I was, I know what I was doing, and because I'm a journaler, I wrote all the details down in my journal that day, and for several days afterwards regarding that event. And then I think it was the 10-year anniversary. I saw articles written about it, and I thought, I'll write something about it. And with my writers group, we were doing this. And so I wrote a piece, and then I thought, I'll go back and see what I had written in my journal. And here's the interesting thing. All of the emotions were correct, but the facts were not. I had the wrong timeline, I had the wrong place, whatever. What I remembered emotionally was true, but the details were not quite exactly right. And that's when a journal really, if you want to look back on things from 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it's interesting. Now, I don't think 30 years from now I'll be looking back on things. Maybe my daughter or my granddaughter will, not have to throw these away, but I have a whole big trunk of journals over the years. It doesn't matter what your medium is. Recording things, writing things down empowers you. it gives you the memory of something, an event that you might want to. It helps you sort out your emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're
It
going
does,
if
yeah.
you're going through a difficult time, maybe you're grieving. I've written lots of things about people I've lost that I miss, and it helps me to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
so there's lots of uses for a journal. But
Mm-hmm.
as a writer, it's a great way to explore.
Mm-hmm.
So you get an idea. I think I'll write a story about. And what I do is I'm thinking and I'm seeing the story and I'm just writing words. It starts here, this happens. And if I get down with a page and I go, I feel energized to write this story. I think I want to write it. Now I have this little skeleton to start working with. And you can also collect information if you're writing a book, right? I use not just journals, but I use notebooks for my bigger projects, my book projects. So I have, a whole bunch of things in a notebook all in one place, which really is kind of a form of journaling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has helped me a lot, especially I'm working on a memoir. So writing everything down has been more helpful to me probably than anybody who's going to read it.
Yes.
It helped me realize who I am, if that makes any sense. And
who we are, and I'm going to add for me, not for everybody maybe, but who I want to be.
mm-hmm.
So I often will be exploring who I am and creating who I am. So, that sounds kind of weird, but I don't mean it to. It's really, really very logical. I'm an accountant at heart. Everything has to add up. But, I had, as many women do, or people do, I had a transition in life around the age of 50. And I said to myself, okay, now what? What do I do? And so I sat down with my good old friend journal, and I wrote for like weeks, and I started with questions like, where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I get there? Where do I want to live? Specific questions. What do I need to be fulfilled and happy in my life? I need a spiritual sense. I need a physical, healthy sense. That's food and fitness. I need financial security, a house to live in, very basic things. And then I said, when I got all of this exploring of what do I need and want, okay, how do I get there? Well, if I want this lifestyle, I need this college education. I need to go back to school. I need to do this and this and this. And I devised the plan. Now, the best laid plans don't always happen, right? But it gives you kind of a roadmap that puts you in that direction. It's going to verve off and go in different directions, but if that's your goal and you can see it, it's kind of like you want to take a trip, right? Well, you don't just get in the car, well, maybe you do, but most people get in the car and say, I'm going to a specific destination. Therefore, I need the roads that get me there. If you just get in a car and go, I think I'll go for a drive, and maybe I'll get somewhere, you might.
Right.
But it might take you all around the place, and it might not be where you wanted to go to begin with. So a journal is a great tool for figuring out your life and planning what you want to do. And I've always done it, and now I'm in my 70s, and I still do. I don't do the long-term 10-year plans anymore, or 5-year plans, because who knows. But I do ask myself, where do I want to be and what do I want to do? Who do I want to be?
One of the things that has helped me, and I know it has also helped you because you've written about it, is taking a hike.
Yes.
When I am walking out by myself, it's when I get the best ideas.
Yeah.
Things come to me but if you're walking with a friend, you're talking,
Yes.
and you don't get the same result.
I like to call that's sightseeing. That's a passenger. When you have a companion that you're hiking with, it's a good experience, but it's not the same as when you hike alone or walk alone. And I did, as you know, I did this mountain in New Hampshire over 1,000 times. A little obsessive maybe, but it was so therapeutic, and so many inspirations from nature, there's something about hiking, getting your heart rate going, your oxygen to your brain, that you...
And being lost in your own
Yes.
thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then you can go and journal about it. And
And if you want to take it up a notch, when you start the hike, clear your mind, go, okay, forget all that stuff, and then say, what do I want to do today? And a lot of times I would pick a word like, I want to connect the dots. Just put that little thing in your brain and then just go on your hike. And you'll be amazed at how things that you've been puzzling about or wondering about will start to connect. So you can jumpstart your process if you pick keywords that you want your brain to focus on. It's a marvelous tool, this brain that we have. We don't really realize how powerful it is. So hiking and carrying a journal with you of some sort. If I didn't have my journal with me and I was inspired, when I get back to the parking lot, I'd have to write it down as fast as I could, because it's kind of like a dream. If you don't capture it, it's gone. So, yeah, and I did write a book called My Mountain Friend that was about this experience of hiking. And it truly felt like this trail was a friend after 10 years and 1,000 times to the top. Yeah. I still feel wonderful about that. So for planning, for gathering your thoughts, for journals, just writing down inspirational pieces that come to you. Maybe you had an interesting conversation with somebody, or you observed somebody. The word journal is the same as journey, right? It's the same root word. So it's kind of recording your journey in your life. And every day we go through different things that happen. I write every day. I mean, write silly things that don't mean much, but every once in a while there's a gem in there. There's something that I go back and say, oh yes, I remember I wanted to do this or this or this. So for planning, for healing, for writing down inspiration, a journal is an amazing tool. It doesn't matter the medium. I happen to like physical journals, but on your computer, on a tape recorder,
I
whatever.
do mine on my iPad because, I don't write well. I have trouble writing by hand. Okay. So maybe we should go on to the word for the day.
Okay.
The word for the day is reminisce. To talk, think, or write about things in the past, which goes right along with what we're talking about today.
I would say for anyone who may be listening to us, why don't you find a journal and reminisce about something that you've been thinking about, or maybe you want to think about. It could be a past experience, or it could be something you want to do. And visualize yourself doing it and how it would turn out.
Or if it was a traumatic experience, that can help you work through it, too.
Yes, very much so. And we all have trauma. Life is trauma. We have good things, so we have to take the good and the bad, I guess. But it can help. I also want to remind everyone, before I forget, that we do have a literary contest here at Lakeshore Center for the Arts writing program. We're looking for short stories, essays, fiction or nonfiction, and poetry. You can go to Lakeshore Center for the Arts website and click on Writing Contest. We welcome your
I think
stories.
you have to go to the writers group, like the hamburger. Is there a hamburger thing?
I think there is,
on the page, and then that gets you to the writers group, and then the contest.
I did ask for a front page bullet or whatever.
They might have
it is,
changed it.
But anyway, it's
there. It's in there if you look around.
You'll find it. And also, we're very excited that in October, we are going to be hosting the very first Western New York Writers Conference. More details will be coming out soon, in the next month or so. But it's on October 11th. It's a one-day event. We're going to have some fabulous speakers and presenters. We'll have lunch. We'll have a chance to network with other writers and build a community of writers. So keep that in mind.
I'm going.
Yeah, I'm going. I have to go. I'm going to be putting it on, so we'll be there. And we'll be celebrating this wonderful...
It'll be my first writers' conference.
Well, you can get so much from a conference, because you do get to meet other people who share your passion, and you get to hear from people, experts on topics of writing, publishing, and all the rest of the parts of this. And you will leave there with something of value that I always say.
I hope so.
I always say shortens my writer learning curve. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending time with us today. We value your feedback, and we'll see you next week.
Happy writing!